What's up, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Storytime with the Anthony KT. Yes, welcome. So, previously on Storytime with the Anthony KT was chapter, what was it, chapter 13? Yeah. It was chapter 13. It was called Finding Happiness, in which this was the chapter where some decisions needed to be made in this relationship that Charles and Zoe were getting in the middle. We're getting ready to, we're in the, not in the middle. I want to say in the middle, but it really wasn't in the middle. They were dating for a couple of months as their old habits that they had in the past when it came to their significant others, after they tragically lost their significant others, and they put these walls up and to guard their heart and push people away from getting too, and keep people from getting too close to them until they met each other. And that was what they were doing with each other. They were pushing each other away and keeping each other at a distance so that neither of them could get close to each other. And Charles was the one to notice that, and he made that, and he talked to Zoe about that, and basically what Charles said was that it's really about what we really want. Do we want this meaning them together, or not? And it was Charles. And so what Zoe ended up doing was kissing Charles's hand. This was chapter 13. Kissing Charles's hand, saying goodnight, and then walking into her house. And to Charles, that kind of Charles started having these worries that it was over. And we get into chapter 13, Finding Happiness. It's the next morning. It's after they went on their date, and it's Charles thinking, this is over. I'm never going to see Zoe again. And he kind of does, he's not depressed. He's not sad. There's no expression on his face. It's just kind of just bland. He's just whatever. And Zoe wakes up the next morning with the same look on her face, just bland, but also feeling bad about how that night ended with Charles. She is someone, as we get into chapter 14, is that we learn that Zoe is someone who is very sure of herself when it comes to work. When it comes to her job as a producer, she's very sure of herself. She knows how to handle these problems. She knows how to handle anything when it comes to her job. But when it comes to Charles, she is very unsure about Charles. She's very sure that she likes Charles, but she's unsure of whether or not she wants to actually be in this relationship with Charles. And she's allowing herself to just focus on work, and when the right words come to her of what she wants to actually say to Charles when she feels ready, that is what she'll do. So in the meantime, it's kind of like Charles is just kind of just wondering, well, now what? And it's on that point of view for Charles, it's just worry that maybe it's over, and just and it's almost like it's in a way it's allowing Charles to let those old habits kind of win and put his wall back up and guard his heart, and just no longer allow love to come to him again. And we get to the end of chapter 14, and this is where the previously comes in, where I'm going to read the rest of chapter 14, and then we're going to get chapter 13, sorry. And then we're going to get right into chapter 14, and then I will go from there. Okay? All right. So let's go right into it. Charles got in his car to drive to work. Last night was all he was thinking of when it came to his work. Charles was very sure once he walked in the building and into the studio. When it came to Zoe, he was sure about how he felt about her and what it meant and what it means being in a relationship with her. What Charles was unsure about was if he would see or hear from Zoe again after what felt like a goodbye kiss on his hand last night. All Charles knew, all Charles knew he could do was focus on what's in front of him, and that was producing another good episode of his late night talk show. After work, Charles drove to his spot by the beach and hung out by the rocks. As Charles stared out into the ocean, he heard someone walking toward him in the sand. Charles looked to see who was walking toward him, and he could see it was Zoe. "Zoe, I didn't expect to see you here," Charles said, surprised to see Zoe. "I know. I went to your place first, but you weren't there. So I figured this is where you would be," Zoe said. "You know me well." "What are you doing here?" Charles asked. Allergies. Sorry. "I've been thinking about you all day. I need to talk to you about last night," Zoe said. "Truth be told, last night after you kissed my hand, I was scared I wasn't going to see you again," Charles said. "I'm glad I proved you wrong," Zoe said. "Me too. What's on your mind, Zoe?" Charles asked, wondering and worried what Zoe was going to say next. "About last night, what you said was right. Sometimes old habits do die hard, and it does come down to how much we care about each other. I've just been unsure about the relationship we're starting, but I'm sure about you. I'm sure about how much I like you and how much I enjoy our time together," Zoe said. "I get it. I really do. The last thing I want is to lose everything we could build together, like you did when you lost Andy, and like I did when I lost Mandy," Charles said. "Exactly. I don't want that either," Zoe said. But I'm tired of being unhappy. I'm tired of feeling depressed. I'm tired of being used to being alone, and I don't want to be alone anymore. I want to hold your hand, kiss your lips, hold you in my arms, talk with you, laugh with you. I want to be with you. I want everything with you." "But what do you want?" Charles asked. "I know I'm tired of the same things you are, and I know when I'm with you, you make me feel like I can love again." Zoe taking a line from one of her favorite songs by Alex Isley. "I know I want to be with you. I know I want to be with you too, and have everything with you too. But I'm scared to drop my wall and give you my heart, and give you all of my heart. Not because I think you'll break my heart, but because I don't want to lose you the same way I lost Andy," Zoe said. "I don't want to lose you like I lost Mandy either, but sometimes things happen in life that are out of our control. And as much as that sucks, we have to try and live each day as it comes. That's what I want with you, to take each day as it comes with you." "How does that sound?" Charles asked. Zoe looks into Charles's eyes, walks toward him, takes his hand, looks into his eyes, smiles, kisses his lips, and says, "So what are you doing tonight?" And that is how chapter 13 ends, finding happiness. And they found happiness with each other. In that moment, Zoe makes her decision and realizes that Charles is worth it. Charles is the guy that is worth it. Charles knew that Zoe was worth that risk. And it just took a little bit longer for Zoe to get there. And when she got there and she realizes that Charles is worth that risk, and when she asks, "What are you doing tonight?" that is where she takes that leap of faith and jumps. And they jump together. And now they found happiness with each other. And that's how chapter 13 ends. Chapter 14, Love and Happiness, takes us 6 months since that conversation they had on the beach. And I'm just gonna dive right into it. It had been 6 months since Charles and Zoe had dropped their walls and given their hearts fully to each other. Each day they were together, feelings of being unsure from Zoe and Charles were fading away. Feeling scared was something they weren't feeling anymore. What was replacing feelings of being unsure and being scared was happiness. Zoe and Charles had found happiness together, but they were taking their time with what they were building, allowing things to go at a steady pace, not rushing into anything too fast. They would have date nights in. They would talk about how work was going, and sometimes they would go on double dates with their friends, Grayson and Sarah. Life was feeling good for once, and life was feeling good for once for Charles, and life was a good feeling for once for Zoe. And that's where I'm going to stop. And that is, honestly, that is the final chapter, chapter 14 of The Unexpected, chapter 14, Love and Happiness of The Unexpected. But this is not the final episode of Storytime with the Anthony KT, because I have one more thing that I'm going to read to you, and that will be next week, and I will tell you what that one thing is next week. But as far as The Unexpected goes, chapters 1 through 14, we are done. And this has been Storytime with the Anthony KT. If you would like to know how Storytime ended, if you would like to know how The Unexpected ended, I will say to you, the link is in the bio. Go ahead and check it out. Start from the beginning, go to the end, find out how The Unexpected ends. And I will see you next week for the season finale of season 2 for Storytime with the Anthony KT. And in the meantime and in between time, peace, y'all.